Have you ever driven down an empty road in the dead of night? You look out the window, see the infinite rows of streetlights flank the eerie expanse of asphalt. Inside the car, the constant hum of the air conditioner harmonizes with late-night radio station music. It's lonely, but somehow comfy. On this liminal stretch of road, moments like these seem to go on forever. Existential dread slowly starts to set in. What if you aren't alone on this empty road? What if your car breaks down and nobody's there to help? What if the road never actually ends? Pacific Drive takes those feelings and amplifies them 100-fold. As you drive along the roads of the Olympic Peninsula in Washington, USA, a red orb of light inexplicably sucks you into the unknown. Once you awaken, you realize the Olympic exclusion zone, a supernatural rift in reality, has claimed you as its latest victim. With only a rusty station wagon, you must brave the zone's supernatural threats and discover the mystery behind its existence. Although the zone looks post-apocalyptic, the chaos within is largely isolated. Think of it like the Bermuda Triangle in the middle of rural northwest USA. Even the government has given up on exploring it and instead discourages people from going near the extra-dimensional hotspot. Even so, the zone looks gorgeous despite the danger. The verdant forests of Washington are in full bloom, with tall trees and wild fauna engulfing the landscape. Abandoned trailers, decayed gas stations, and forgotten technology litter this nightmarish Garden of Eden. That said, there's more to the zone than photogenic locales. The ever-present warp storms edge around the forest, consuming everything in their wake. Hostile anomalies litter the landscape, some even taking on unsettling forms like faceless mannequins. As the zone's landscapes shivers and cracks, you become aware of how alive it truly is. All the while, Pacific Drive's beautiful soundtrack serenades the supernatural surroundings. Wilbert Roget's score gives the game an eerie ambiance, a welcome break from the monotony of engine noises and fluttering trees. The radio also plays over 20 licensed songs, curated for maximum road trip enjoyment. You're not alone in Pacific Drive. While the driver gives their best Gordon Freeman impression, the few other humans you encounter in this zone like their chatter.
The last time we heard from her. Yeah, I'm not convinced either. But hey, it's not every day that decades-old legends reappear. We'll lose, you know?
That's exactly why she can't be involved. We can't trust her with something this important.
I know.
Tobias and Francis join you on your dozens of incursions into the zone. Unlike you, the pair stayed behind on purpose just to discover the zone's many mysteries for future generations. They also sound like an old married couple, often bickering over the smallest things. Still, the love they have for each other rings through. Another not-so-friendly voice is the cranky old Ophelia, nicknamed Oppie by everyone else.
This beauty won't just be your tour guide. It's your North Star and the only way back to safety. Heck, you should consider it the Father, Son, and
Holy Spirit if you plan on staying alive. That's how important this thing will be to you.
It's her garage that the player finds themselves in between missions, and she's responsible for pretty much all the technology used throughout Pacific Drive. It's a good idea to listen to her stories on the rare occasions that she's relaxed enough to share, because she's integral to the zone's fascinating backstory. The trio's dynamic is a good reprieve from the monotony that the road can sometimes bring. As the story progresses, the stress of the zone starts affecting them badly, and they start revealing secrets about each other you wish you hadn't heard. As a silent protagonist, you can only sit there, hoping the tension doesn't cost you a chance at freedom. There are also various recordings from other unseen characters, most notably the news reports. Unlike Tobias and Francis, who seem more concerned about the zone from a scientific perspective, the news reports dig for dirt on its creators, particularly Ophelia. Thanks to the journalistic integrity, they're far more blunt and direct with knowledge than the rest of the cast. The overall story brims with intrigue and surprisingly engaging character relationships. The zone brought all these characters together for different reasons, and uncovering them is a great motivator for finishing the story. Without spoiling anything, I did cry over a few moments in the game. The heartfelt storytelling got to me in a way I didn't expect from a spooky card game. All that said, the voices on the radio are just that, voices. The zone itself separates you from the rest of humanity. Thankfully, there's another companion who will never leave your side. The station wagon, which I lovingly named Christine, is the heart of Pacific Drive's gameplay. Pacific Drive divides the gameplay loop into two distinct phases. The first takes place entirely within your home base, Ophelia's garage. Every part can be modified and upgraded for your leisure. You can scrap broken car parts to build newer, better parts for your station wagon. With how vicious the zone can be, expect to go through more makeovers than a season of Pimp My Ride. There are several workstations in the garage. These stations grant the car a variety of upgraded and unique abilities. You can build a heavily armored station wagon that stubbornly survives warp storms, or specializes in off-road trekking for exploration. Some stations even let you customize the car's appearance to your liking. As long as you have the resources, you can change the car's look and playstyle when you enter the garage. Once your station wagon's set, it's time to plan a route for the next mission. On your first mission, Tobias reveals your trusty station wagon is the farthest thing from a normal vehicle. It's a remnant, a possessed inanimate object with supernatural abilities. Remnants attach themselves to a host with a permanent psychic bond. Progression doesn't just result in mechanical upgrades for the station wagon. It deepens the bond between you and the car, practically making you inseparable. Pacific Drive brilliantly subverts the typical video game progression system by making a Stephen King horror story. The ludonarrative gameplay enhances the immersion of Pacific Drive significantly. The meat of the game comes from your excursions into the zone. Unlike the safety of the garage, you have to make do with what you brought in the trunk and whatever you loot in the hostile wilderness. Each journey into the zone brings a different type of horror. The station wagon handling like a piece of junk for the most part of the early game adds to the experience. Sometimes you feel dread from slowly traversing massive stretches of nothing, blanketed by heavy fog. Other times, it's adrenaline-filled terror as the hostile denizens aggressively seek you out. Every trip promises something new for you to discover, whether it's forgotten technology or new anomalies that didn't escape from the SCP Foundation. To get home after a mission, you must charge up your car's arc reactor by finding anchor points scattered around the map. Once charged, you have only a few minutes to reach the gateway before the warp storm destroys everything. Sometimes, the game gets obtuse, telling you to find a gateway only for the map to show anchor points. Just pick up those energy cores and explore the map. Christine will eventually show you the way. On a successful trip, you go home with a bounty of loot and answers to some of the zone's mysteries. Fail, and Pacific Drive reveals what it's really about. When you die, the station wagon teleports you back to the garage, though at the cost of your items and several car parts. While the loss of progress sucks, at least you know what to do now, right? Not really. If you go back to that location, you'll find that it's no longer the quote-unquote same location at all. In short, Pacific Drive isn't just a survival game. It's also a roguelike. To be more accurate, a roguelike? It's a good time to mention that Pacific Drive does have an autosave feature. You can even reload to a previous save during a bad run. There's no shame in it. Christine ate pavement a lot. That gives Pacific Drive a ton of replay value. The developers claim that 12 to 14 hours is enough to finish the main story, but I only hit the mid-zone 17 hours in, as I felt getting upgrades and exploring thoroughly for secrets was a huge part of the game's charm. Plus, being a roguelike, no two playthroughs will ever feel the same. But if you're looking to chill and enjoy the story, there are options to decrease the difficulty in the game's settings. Note, however, that doing so will lock you out of achievements on that file. Pacific Drive starts to get game-breaking bugs around mission triggers during the last few missions. For example, the logbook will have an objective that simply doesn't spawn, even after I scoured the map. There are also times when Oppie sends over a mission-critical item in the pneumatic tube, only for the tube to be empty or contain the wrong item. The worst instance came when I softlock on the final stretch of a story-heavy mission. Instead of feeling awe after one of the most emotionally intense moments in Pacific Drive, I felt frustrated at the hour of progress I lost over a single bug. Backup saves are a must for Pacific Drive. Unfortunately, the zone's scale also results in stuttering on mid-range machines on high settings, and Ultra causes performance issues across the board. I recommend playing around with the settings until the game runs smoothly for you. I will give Ironwood Studios some slack. as this is their first ever release. I love Pacific Drive and want to see it flourish, but the technical issues bar it from being perfect. Hopefully these issues get patched out. Pacific Drive delivers on its exciting premise and then some. The gameplay loop offered enough depth and variety that I never got bored, even on a mundane supply run. The progression felt natural, and seeing Christine get stronger with every upgrade was satisfying. The story is as temperamental as the zone itself, jumping from lighthearted and quirky to utterly terrifying in mere seconds. Although some difficulty spikes felt unfair and few bugs threatened to ruin my enjoyment, the roguelike elements meant setbacks were always temporary. The mysteries and roguelike nature of the game mean I'll be revisiting the zone several hours past the main quest's conclusion. If you love the thrill of exploration and certain death on wheels, take Pacific Drive out for a spin. With its tantalizing story and creative gameplay loops, Pacific Drive gets a 4 out of 5.